when I think about this, the sizing up the scene, all that you really did say was listen and pay attention, right? And that
And
kind of
interpret. Listen, pay
and
attention,
interpret.
interpret. Yeah, yeah.
Like interpret in what way? Like, what did I just hear? Like, help me here.
Yeah, the interpret part of sizing up the scene is there's three parts. Who is this person? We call it know who you're with. You know, this is a unique human being I'm talking to. Like, let's say you're a real estate agent and you've got a listing client. So let's say it's a couple 40 years old and they're selling this kind of house in this kind of neighborhood and they have two kids and whatever. And you've had lots of clients just like this, 40 years old, same kind of job, same kind of kids, same neighborhoods. Well, guess what? You have never had a client just like this because they're unique human beings. And
Mm.
we have to really interpret what makes this person unique. The second part of sizing up the scene is what's going on in their world, right? What's influencing them? What's their backstory? What's driving their decision making? Other influences driving their
Mm.
decision making, and then also listening for the game. What kind of conversational style is best for them? So as you interpret those things, you're in a great position to move them along a course towards yes.
So you talk about making sure that a conversation is always moving forward, right?
Right.
Like that's how you know that there's something happening here. And so the next step after sizing up the scene and paying attention, listening and interpreting really is then how do you create this series of yeses so that the conversation keeps propelling forward? Can you give us some examples of that?
Sure. The term I love that gets into right what you're asking about, Diane, which is conversational momentum. Yeah, think about this. We've all been in conversations that are dragging. It's like, I can't wait to get out of it, right? We also, every one of us has been in thousands of conversations in our life that have that momentum. They're moving forward. The icon we use when we showed this graphically is green lights. Imagine you're driving, that just you don't have to put on your brakes because each intersection you go through, the light's green. That's what you want your negotiating partner, your customer to be thinking about, is just feeling this is conversations moving forward, because everybody you're speaking with has lots of distractions in their life and you want to earn their attention so that they're sharing with you what they care about, they're listening to you, and conversational momentum makes that happen. How do you do that? Well, we have this habit we call creating a series of yeses. And what we got to think about is there's that big yes where somebody goes, sure, I'll agree to do what you want to do, whether it's as big as buy the house or as maybe it's just I'll agree to stage the house, or I'll agree to do these renovations, or the other agent I'll agree to take that to my client, whatever it is. That yes, where they agree to do something with you, is preceded by a series of small yeses of affirmation agreement that leads you there. A conversation at its heart is really a series of yeses. And so if you can get somebody to continually feel like you're affirming, agreeing, and creating that conversational momentum, they'll keep sharing information with you that's important to them. They'll be open to listening to you, and you'll be able to constantly nurture that conversation towards that place where you're both going to be happy.
And is this conversational momentum, is this you kind of playing back the things that you heard them say?
Well, that's an important part of it. We have a practice in Ditch the Pitch we call create callbacks. I don't mean a telephone callback. Sure, we want people to call us back. What I mean by
Sure.
callback, it's you've all heard this when, like, it happens in comedy shows or funny movies all the time, where a scene happens, it's funny, and then a few minutes later it gets referenced again, and it seems funny the second time because you see this continuity of of content. Same thing happens with somebody. If somebody tells you something's really important to them and you refer back to it later, think what it does. It tells them you were listening to them. But also, and this is a very important negotiation principle, people will never argue with their own information. So if somebody says something that's important to them and then you manage later to reference how something you're saying connects to what they told you was important 2 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, yesterday, last week, whatever it is, when you can reference back to something somebody told you was important, it's like, it's magical. She was listening to me. He was listening to me. And again, like I said, people don't argue with their own information. It's a great principle to remember.
One of the things is as that I've learned over the years, and I wonder where this fits in here, is this idea of I can say it, but if you say it, it has a totally different impact on the conversation, right? And so getting,
Love
you
that.
know, pardon me, go ahead.
I love that. Keep going.
Well, the idea that for sure I can tell you that I'm great.
Right.
But if I get you to say that, that's a whole different part of the conversation.
Absolutely.
Or if everything that you're saying is leading up to, what it is you eventually want, I've noticed some people then say what it is you were going to say versus letting you say it because it changes the conversation of the it just changes the whole conversation. I I'm not as eloquent as you, so you can
Yeah,
just yeah.
I love how you said that. What you said is perfect. It's great. It's that go back to something I've said I think a couple of times is that we can't convince people of things. This late date in history, we are all so self-reliant. We make decisions for ourselves. I mean, of course, we are influenced, but we believe we have agency to decide everything for ourselves. I don't want anybody convincing me what to do. Do you? None of us do.
No, mm-mm.
So what we're trying to do is not convince people to agree with us. We're nurturing a conversation so they get to the point where they say yes. I have a line in my first book, Brand Harmony, where I references, I say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him think, right? Sort of changing the last word of the famous adage. It's like, I can lead you to a place, but I can't tell you what to think. But if I am understanding where you're coming from, I'm thinking input before output, I'm sizing up the scene, I'm creating this series of yeses, I'm focused on you, and I'm learning all about what you care about, and I'm nurturing the conversation in a way that supports what you care about, and weaving my story in with yours, you're going to get to the point where you go, yeah, this makes sense. Let's do it. Because this is the thing we got to remember. You cannot convince people to do things. Nobody wants to be convinced. You can persuade them by leading them to a point where they go, yeah, that makes sense for me. There's this idea in negotiation and in selling. And even if you look at advertising, it's like, if I give you enough proof points, it's like a column of numbers. You go, yep, it adds up. I should say yes. That's not how people make decisions, right? You can't just load proof points and people expect them to say yes to you. What you can do is figure out what their best path to yes is, and then collaborate with them to walk down that path to get to a point where you're going to be happy with when they say yes.